Hey guys, gals, and MBs. I'm here today with the Behringer MS-1. Disclaimer, I bought this with my own money. They were $199, and I think they still are. They are out of stock right now, at least at the retailer I bought it at, which is Sweetwater, which I use all the time. Look around, maybe you can find some units on other retailers. I think they do, Behringer directly sells on Amazon. So at $199, this is crazy value. Sounds absolutely fantastic. I love the sound of the SH-101 to begin with, which this is a clone of. The Roland SH-101, of course. I like Boards of Canada. Obviously, they use an SH-101 in a lot of their music, especially the song Roy G. Biv, which is one of my favorites. And yeah, this captures the spirit of that. It sounds very similar. I borrowed a real SH-101 many, many years ago, probably 15, 20 years ago. And from what I remember, it sounds very similar. The build quality of this one is better than I remember that one being, but that was an old unit. The plastic feels better on this. Both are made out of plastic and both have a metal chassis underneath of it, or a bottom cover, so this is no exception. The color scheme is great. I love the red. It's the only one available I think that they're still in production with. So yeah, that said, if you could hear from the opening, I love the sound. I used it in the Meraki, or Meraki. I keep calling it Meraki, Cisco. But yeah, the Meraki, I used it in that video. We'll just go over some of the things I really like about it. It's going to be a video. I always say it's going to be a short video, and it never is. So let's turn off the effects. Some of the features that this has over the original is this has filter FM. And this, what was the other major feature other than MIDI? Oh, it has a triangle wave. So this has MIDI as well, and yeah, so let's listen to a basic waveform. So let's listen to one of the new waveforms. Let's listen to the... Along with one of the things that I love to do on this synth in particular, is since this has a noise waveform for the modulation source, you can add that as noise modulation. So that's really cool, especially with the square. Let's just listen to all the waveforms with the filter wide open, no resonance, all right? Square. Oh, let's turn off that. Square, pulse width, manual. Oh, I'm an LFO, okay. Saw. Triangle again. Sub. 2 types of sub. 3 types of sub. And then noise. So yeah. We got that. The interesting thing here with the LFO for the pulse width modulation is it doesn't follow the waveforms over here. So if I want to use noise for the pitch modulation, which I love doing, then you still have the triangle waveform for pulse width modulation. I think it would be weird otherwise. So yeah, so it's always going to be that. Also, one of the cool things is you can, with the bender feature, which I don't like using this for a pitch bender, but what I love doing is using it for the VCF. So I did that in the Meraki video, in the opening, I believe. Add some resonance. Let's hear the resonance actually really quick. We'll turn it up about there. Very squelchy, very acidy, which is, I mean, you could use this for acid, obviously. Was one of the things it was used for. Along with the TB303. So yeah, is just a fantastic sounding synth. It's very simple because it's only a single oscillator. It has multiple waveforms, but the 3340, the oscillator, the SEM clone of the 3340, the Curtis 3340, I don't remember. But yeah, it has multiple waveforms coming off of it, and normally synths, what they end up doing when they use the 3340, you have an on or off control for the waveform instead of having a mixer. So in this case, I can have all the waveforms at the same time, and I can just pick how much I want of it. I mean, I think the Prophet 600 at the time was another 3340 based synth, and that had switches, and you had all or nothing, though you couldn't like mix exact levels of the oscillators. But yeah, really cool that you can just mix exact levels. You can make some very complex waveforms with that. So we'll switch back to this. We'll turn off the mod here, and we'll listen to the filter FM. We're going to turn down. We got a little filter here. So yeah, you can add filter FM, and if you're using the pulse width, which is really cool because it is just pulling the FM from the 3340, if you have pulse width modulation going, let's go to manual so we can hear that more. But yeah, this is off, but because we're filter FMing, we can get some really interesting textures when we still use PWM and filter FM. Can even use noise. It's a little aggressive though. I much rather use it from this mod source. So yeah, pretty cool. Sub-oscillator is really cool. It goes down to 2 octaves if you want. Let's bring this up. 1 octave down, 2 octaves down, 2 octaves down, narrow pulse. Also, one thing that I've noticed, first off, I love the key bed on this thing. I've actually used it as just a key bed when I needed a quick, easy-to-use key bed. It's not that bad. I've had much worse key beds in the past, but this is a really nice feeling key bed. I mean, it's a FITAR, it's not, but it's also not a 90s M audio piece of garbage. I should say early 2000s, late 90s, I believe. Yeah, so if we add some effects with that. Add some envelope and some filter. There we go, that's what I wanted to. It just sounds so aggressively cool. Let's add my most favoritist analog delay. With the filter FM, it just sounds really just so cool. I mean, listen to that. Super aggressive tones you can get out of this thing. Super bassy tones, super aggressive tones. Great for leads, good for ambient. Obviously, if you have effects running on it, you're going to need that because it's a mono synth. Single oscillator mono synth. Filters a 24 dB per octave filter. It self-oscillates. I'm not going to get into that. So yeah, with the keyboard control, you should be able to tune it exactly to play sine wave. add a nice sweep to that. We have glide too. So yeah, really cool. Yeah, not much more to say about that. The bender is super useful for the VCF portion, like I said. I love that noise modulation when it comes to the waveform. And obviously, I have standard wave. Oh, here's the other thing. So, you know how I have the noise modulation happening now, right? I can still get a triangle style vibrato if I want to using the bender control. So I'm going to turn this up a little. Watch. It still follows the LFO clock rate, but... And like the original, we have a sequencer and an arpeggiator. I think the original definitely had a sequencer, right? I know it had an arpeggiator. So yeah, but it has a really easy to use sequencer. Super easy to use. The arpeggiator is kind of advanced. You have multiple options. Here's the clock rate. The other thing I want to bring up is you have last note priority as far as I can tell. So that means if I'm holding down, let's start a lower note, right? If I go up to a higher note, it's going to go back to that. But if I go down and play a lower note, it's going to take that one. So that's cool. I'm not sure if you can switch that up in the Behringer Synth Tribe software. You probably can. But yeah, fantastic synth. It sounds absolutely wonderful. If you look online, you can find comparisons against a real SH-101, which I highly recommend you do if you really need that authentic sound. I think it sounds close enough. It is definitely a lot nicer to use than the Boutique, which the Boutique sounds absolutely fantastic as well. It's a real mono synth. It's $200. It has a very useful key bed. Or usable, not useful, obviously. It's a useful key bed, but it's also very usable and playable. I can play leads really fast. Including the sharps or the black keys. The articulation point's nice on the top and the bottom, so if I want to so that's really great. So yeah, not much more to say, I guess. I would say if you do end up getting one of these, if you noticed here, I have a really cheap tuner. I finally bought a cheap tuner, so I don't have to use my HX1 as a standalone tuner. When I get to that, I can use it as a proper effects unit as well. I mean, I guess you could use both, but I've been using it as a tuner a lot, so I got a cheap tuner. Got the Donner DTI, I believe it is there. I think that's an I and not a 1. It's $30. I would highly recommend if you get the MS-1, if you get any analog synth, get a cheap tuner to go with it. You're going to need it to get it tuned properly, unless you have perfect pitch. But yeah, just a nice thing. And this thing stays in tune very well once you initially get it into tune. Mine was a little off here from where it should be, right in the center. But yeah, once you get the temperature stable, let it up for a little while, it stays in tune after about 15 minutes of power up time. So that's really convenient. But yeah, I would recommend a cheap tuner, like I said, if you're going to be using a lot of analog synths, unless you have a multi-effects pedal that has a tuner as well. I just want a standalone one. That one works pretty well. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope this video was interesting to you. My next video, I think I'm going to do the comparison between the Meraki, the Strymon Brig, and probably the Starlight, UA Starlight, so you can hear different stereo emulations of an analog delay versus a real thing. All right, thanks for watching again. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and subscribe. And if you like this kind of content, give me a thumbs up. All right, bye.